This major central bank just increased its Bitcoin exposure dramatically. It looks like a hockey stick of a chart and it's absolutely skyrocketing. But the secret to all of this is that it is not purchasing actual Bitcoin, and they might have accelerated the paper Bitcoin attack. Now, we will get into the significance of this potential paper Bitcoin attack, as well as the development of it with this central bank, because the relationship of this central bank, one, its holdings, and two, globally, makes this very, very interesting. Now, let's dive in to what we saw from the Swiss central bank here the other day, where they exploded their holdings for MicroStrategy and their Bitcoin exposure, going from 0 to 258 million. Now, look at this. It is all a hockey stick of a chart, to say the very least. It went from nothing to 258 million right from the jump. Now, to put this in context, the United States and and all of these other central banks, they own MSTR, but they took a while to accumulate. They didn't go all in just at once like this Swiss central bank did. And now the relationship of this Swiss central bank globally is very interesting too, because it does have a balance sheet of 650 to 700 billion. So 700 to 750 billion USD. So it essentially used about a third of its overall holdings to go buy MSTR shares right from the jump. And the unique thing is okay, maybe it's smaller than the Fed, ECB, but this accounts for 70% of Swiss GDP. So right off the jump, Swiss 70% of Swiss GDP. Now 25% of that is 33%, excuse me, is now MSTR. So that's all Bitcoin exposure now coming through with all of that. So everybody's looked at the Swiss franc as a safe haven. This is where everybody is basically net neutral when it comes to overall currencies and banking and everything else. It seemed as is Switzerland is the land of the free and nobody has to worry about that. That's where everybody goes to park their money for safety. Now they're looking at MSTR as part of that safety. Now, that's what makes this all very unique, in my opinion, is just how Switzerland is perceived with all of this. Now, on the flip side of things, they aren't buying Bitcoin directly. Now, this is where I start to get a little bit worried when you see things like this, because not only do we have Switzerland, being one of the financial hubs of the world, we have now MSTR as the biggest holder in corporate treasuries, but also Saylor talking about credit and credit rankings for all these preferred shares. And now this is a $300 trillion opportunity. So what does he need for all this? He needs more capital to be flown into MSTR shares, preferred private equity, preferred stock offerings, all of these different aspects, so they could offer more of these products. Now, MSTR has continued to double, triple, quadruple down, and they continue to keep on buying Bitcoin. In fact, they're almost at 640,000. By the time you watch this, who knows? They may be at 640,000 Bitcoin, because Saylor did it again. He tweeted, hey, there's an orange dots. They go up to the right, and they just need to purchase about 2,000 more Bitcoin in order for that to reach that 640,000. But either way, right, what we are seeing is that Saylor's really attacking this credit market. And this credit market is a big, giant opportunity for them to continue to keep on stacking. Now, MSTR, if you look at just the numbers, you see the 1.54 MNAV. So they're still in that accumulation phase. And you can tell by the purchases. They'll probably purchase number 80 tomorrow. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities to say that. And then the next couple weeks, we'll see them literally double up their entire Bitcoin buys. They had 42, I believe, before President Trump got elected, 41 to 42. And in the next couple weeks, they will match that in just since Donald Trump has gotten elected. So the amount of buying that they've been doing is absolutely huge. But all of this surrounding MicroStrategy, well, it is very interesting because of the relationship MicroStrategy has with TradFi, right? So BlackRock, they own 5% of MSTR. Now, I do trust Saylor, but they have to make a Schedule 13G filing in order to disclose that they're going to own this amount of shares. Now, this happened late last year, and they increased their holding from 4% to over 5%. And they must file it, and they must do it within 45 days or 10 days if they exceed 10%. They didn't exceed 10%, at least that we know of just yet. And so we see, all right, the preferred offerings and all these other things. So BlackRock, major owner in MSTR, they were very, let's call it, reluctant to get into the Bitcoin space. But now that Larry Fink has seen the overall money possibilities of getting into Bitcoin, he's like, let's do it. Let's go all in. But what is something interesting that BlackRock has said before? They've come out and said negative things about Coinbase. And like I tell you guys all the time on this channel, when there's smoke, there's fire. This is an article from a while ago. And for those of you guys who keep coming to the channel, know I keep bringing this up. So please hit that subscribe button for me. But regardless, we're seeing that Coinbase, are they potentially selling paper Bitcoin? Now, they secure 81% of the 140 billion in the US ETF crypto assets. 81%. Now, if this needs to make a big centralized attack, right? They talk about Bitcoin mining being centralized by all of these mining pools and, some of these other aspects of it, the 51% attack. Well, what about the 81% attack from these ETFs? It's absolutely massive. And I get it. You need to have custodians when you have some sort of, major publicly traded company. Not a lot of them want to be custodians, right? The only ETF that actually is offered by the custodian themselves is Fidelity. And look, I'm not saying you need to go and buy Fidelity ETF, but what I'm saying is that securing 81% of this, we need to get some sort of diversification in there because it is further evidence by the fact that 8 out of the top 10 publicly traded companies hold Bitcoin, rely on Coinbase as well. So not only is it the ETFs, but it's also 8 out of the top 10 publicly traded companies holding Bitcoin. Now let's refresh. 8 out of the top 10. Well, one of them is Coinbase, but some of these others, I imagine Trump, probably not Metaplanet because it's, a Japanese-based company, but Strategy definitely uses Coinbase, and some of these others use Coinbase as well. So out of these 192 companies, well, we're seeing massive amounts of shifts towards Coinbase custodies. This trend highlights the institutional interest, but the substantial amount of assets under Coinbase is a testament to, it's their security measures. Not like Coinbase has been hacked before or anything, right? Because why would we need any more reason to doubt Coinbase, right? So Coinbase, because of their, quote, robust security measures, has been getting all this. I think it's the first mover advantage. But regardless, too, outside of Coinbase and BlackRock, we also see Vanguard, who is very anti-Bitcoin. They don't allow their clients to hold Bitcoin, right? They don't recommend their ETFs. They don't recommend any of those products to their clients, yet they're the largest institutional holder of MSTR. Now, I'm not saying, hey, you know what, that we need to be worried about MSTR being co-opted just yet. But what I am saying is that we need to be keeping a very, very close eye on the development of this, because we did see, Intel, 10% of all of Intel is now owned by the United States government. They've been talking about the potential of buying up Bitcoin for the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. Saylor has been pictured over at the White House. And instead of just buying up this Bitcoin, well, maybe they use some sort of proxy like Michael Saylor's MSTR to gain all the Bitcoin. And I mean, we've had Senator Cynthia Lummis saying that this Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Plan could wipe out the national debt. And I mean, we had Russia agents come out and saying the same thing. So let's play this clip from Cynthia Lummis so you could hear it directly from her. You guys let me know about the audio on this.
I think that there is a pathway to do this faster.
Yeah, I do think there's a pathway. I think the place to start is to use the money that's held by the U.S. Marshals Service because it was asset forfeiture monies in the form of digital assets. That could be the basis for year one of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And then we can add other currently held
then they could
assets held in a different form, convert them to Bitcoin, and
assets of a different form, convert them to Bitcoin, do all these different things. But the problem is it takes massive amounts of time. In order for the Fed to actually go and audit Fort Knox, figure out how much gold they actually have, it would take months, maybe even multiple years to audit that amount of gold, to then revalue all of that and then use that money to buy Bitcoin. Well, we have Saylor literally using all of these different aspects in order to buy up Bitcoin. And he's talking about the credit market. We're going to get into more of this credit market here in a second, and some of these other big players that are buying MSTR, potentially accelerating this. But first, we got to talk about how you guys don't have to sell your Bitcoin because of Salt Lending. They are the best in the business when it comes to loaning against your Bitcoin. You guys got to unlock your purchasing power with Bitcoin today. I mean, you've been hodling for a while. You've been stacking. It's time to treat yourself. Maybe even use it to buy more Bitcoin. Look, that's not financial advice. Whatever you want to do to borrow and unlock your purchasing power, you could go to saltlending.com/green-candle. They'll give you an exclusive offer today. They've got a Salt Shield, their no liquidation solution. They also have the biggest Bitcoin-backed loan ever taken out at $108 million. So they could be trusted for businesses and people all alike. They give you some of the cheapest rates in town with great durations and LTVs. And they're giving an exclusive offer if you go to saltlending.com/green-candle. And we're going to keep on diving in because we're seeing so many governments start to stack up MSTR. I mean, I've tracked this with you guys for a while. Norway's sovereign wealth fund. We got Dark Side here saying MSTR is the SPR, which is potentially what I'm seeing here because of how many governments are getting involved in all of this, right? We have the Norwegian sovereign wealth fund, which expanded its Bitcoin exposure. But it's funny because it puts an actual Bitcoin number on there. But in reality, all they're doing is buying Block, Coinbase, Mara, MetaPlanet, MSTR. They are not buying actual Bitcoin. And they're one of the biggest holders in Bitcoin. And if you look at, the sovereign wealth funds, the visualization, all of it, the Norwegian pension fund is the largest, the biggest, the largest, as Big X the Plug says. But on top of that, we have Abu Dhabi, the UAE. All of these guys are holding Bitcoin and MSTR as well. And so, we've got Standard Chartered saying that sovereign's indirect exposure via MSTR is growing, backing its $500,000 Bitcoin price target. Now, that is absolutely massive, right? So, Standard Chartered, one of the biggest investment vehicles there are, or investment managers there are, they're looking at all these things and seeing, hey, you know what? Government and efficiency are mutually exclusive. Exactly, because all these things are slow moving, right? So I think it's going to take some time before we see it's going to take some time before we see the government actually start to move into this direction to actually pull off what Saylor's doing, buy Bitcoin like he's doing like literally every single week. I mean, look at the amount of orange dots here and look at the amount of buys that we have here lately. I mean, literally every single week we see a buy, a buy, a buy. The only time there's more than 7 days in between the buys is if Monday is a holiday. So they have to do it on a Tuesday. But either way, Michael Saylor has been buying up Bitcoin like crazy. And he is very, fiat minded with all of this. Remember that, folks. Like he is still thinking about providing value to his shareholders. That's his mission, right? I mean, it's not a negative or a knock on Saylor by any means, but his job as a owner, CEO, founder of a publicly traded company is to provide value to the shareholders. Full stop, right? So that could lead to potentially selling Bitcoin if he cannot meet the dividend. So, Jim Chanos is calling it gibberish, but Saylor talking about unlocking this $300 credit and pursued credit ranking and getting this credit on Bitcoin, it's going to be absolutely huge because, he's essentially saying, hey, Bitcoin's building this base. OG hodlers are exiting right now, and the big money is prepping to come on in, right? He's saying all these things because he sees it, right? He sees it firsthand. Like I told you guys here earlier, right? MSTR is being bought up by sovereign wealth funds, all these big retirement funds, pension funds, all of these different governments around the world. And he's sitting in all these rooms in governments and essentially providing a vehicle for them to have exposure to Bitcoin. But I mean, we heard it from Saylor at one point in time either. He doesn't want to disclose the wallet of MSTR because it could lead to some potential effects, right? Some negative effects, allegedly, right? Even though we have others that have disclosed that. And so because of that, Saylor building a base as OG hodlers exit, right? Bitcoin volatility is easing as early hodlers cash out, clearing the way for institutions to step on in. He said Bitcoin will be trading sideways. And Saylor saying the credit markets are going to be taken over. Well, if you issue the digital credit, you'll have the world's best credit, right? This is what Saylor was saying here in this great interview with Natalie Brunell. Now I'll pull up the clip and let me know, because usually as I get deeper in these, the audio dies, but let me play it for you guys.
The opportunity of any kind of Bitcoin treasury company is you have the world's best collateral, you have Bitcoin digital capital. If you issue digital credit, you'll have the world's best credit. And that credit will then create amplification for the equity, because whatever volatility and whatever performance you strip off of the credit will accrue to the common stock shareholders. And so you create amplified Bitcoin in your equity. You create.
There we go. Amplified Bitcoin in his equity, as if holding Bitcoin was not enough, right? Because the way that strategy has been developing everything here, right? I mean, it has been genius. To Saylor's credit, he's utilizing literally every single financial angle underneath the sun in order to optimize his company from a zombie company to now one of the most profitable companies in the world. But the issue is not, Saylor doing anything nefarious. The issue is that they are not holding Bitcoin themselves. So when you see these businesses, look at the Bitcoin businesses inflow here. By the end of this year, they're projected by River to be holding 66.9 billion Bitcoin dollars of worth of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And it's rapidly increasing. I mean, when you look at this, right, we have 26 new publicly traded companies coming on in the last 30 days. That Bitcoin 100, as they call it, has over 1,018,000 Satoshi or Bitcoin right now. They have over that Satoshi value. And then, we've got the Switzerland GDP loading up on Bitcoin, where their GDP is 1 trillion and their balance sheet is 750 billion. So now that they're going to be holding literally 250 billion worth of Bitcoin, that is massively significant in the amount of holdings that they have for their GDP. And then we have, Saylor talking about utilizing the credit markets. We've got friend of the program, Mark Moss, who has talked about utilizing the global bond and fixed income markets. Of course, you guys know I love to show this as well. The Wells Fargo CEO said strategy utilizing the Bitcoin treasury to then tap into the $300 trillion bond market. That's the most underappreciated story of 2025. I've been telling you guys this whole time, so make sure you guys are subscribing for me, because as we see Saylor talk about the Bitcoin credit market be taken over, he's saying that, hey, you know what? Bitcoin may go boring because institutional money will kill the volatility. Well, here's where I think he is incorrect on that. This is one reason why me and Saylor disagree, because the number of Bitcoin on exchanges, folks, we could look at the financial world and say, hey, you know what? They love Bitcoin, which they do. I'm not saying they don't. But what I am saying is that I don't think they've ever seen an asset like Bitcoin before. Because Bitcoin not only is, the best collateral there is and all of the great aspects and, things that we know, it's also a fixed supply. So this 2.15 million left on exchanges, and that Bitcoin on OTC desks of 155,000, well, if what River says is true, that's going to get scooped up really quick. And if all of you plebs participate in it, we'll get it even quicker. And I'm going to help you guys get your Bitcoin off exchanges right now. You can go to the affiliate link down below in the show notes to go to Trezor. I've got my Trezor Safe 5 with me right here. I keep it all handy. I like the orange back. But you guys can go to the affiliate link down below or Trezor.io. Go to the affiliate link if you can. It helps me out, helps your boy out. And you use promo code GreenCandle5. So go get yourself a Bitcoin only wallet, the Trezor. Go here, go do this. Go to use voucher, click in Green Candle 5, and you'll get 5% off. Oh, it says it's already been in used. Okay, well, I'm gonna get that checked out for you guys, because that could be a potential issue here. So I'm going to hit those guys up here real quick. But either way, go to Trezor.io, scoop up something. They've also got a huge deal for you guys right now. If you guys go to get the Model 1. The Model 1, they have it half off right now. So go there. Then on top of it, go to cryptosteel.com/greencandle. Buy yourself a case 5. Do that today, and you guys could back up your Bitcoin in the easiest and quickest way possible. The case is electric. You don't even need a hammer. You don't need any of that. Back it up. Anything that you can do there, use that affiliate link down below. Any hardware wallet is good, and if you want to back it up with please back up your seed phrase. That's the one thing I do ask, is back it on up, because you don't want to get it in paper and, have these paper Bitcoiners come at you like this, right? Because we're seeing the massive amounts of coming in. We're seeing DC really start to take over on Bitcoin. And this is very alarming, I'll say, because of what we've seen from Coinbase already, right? Coinbase has been hacked multiple times. And because Coinbase has been hacked multiple times, they're getting intertwined with the United States government. They might be holding or looking to hold Bitcoin for the US government. They're already, like I said, in 8 of the top 10 Bitcoin companies. There we go. I appreciate that. All Nighter Hider to the GOAT in the chat, sending out those links. Make sure you guys go get that stuff for me ASAP. And make sure you guys are smoking that like Cheech and Chong. I haven't even talked about price yet. I mean, we are looking extra ripe here for a good week ahead. We have 114,000. We're down just a little bit today on this NFL Sunday. But hey, things are going to turn around. Let me tell you, folks, if anything, if the Bears can turn it around this week, so can Bitcoin. I'll tell you that. So make sure you guys are smoking that like Cheech and Chong, hitting the subscribe button for me, telling a friend to tell a friend, and I'll catch you guys all at the next one.